Hello guys, welcome to a new video series called Yokai Detective. And in our first video or series that I've made, we're going to be talking about this particular yokai called Abe no Seimei. Now, the appearance of Abe no Seimei is perhaps the most famous in Omoiji in Japanese history. A descendant of the famous poet Abe no Nakamaro. He lived from 921 to 105 CE. Due to his success as an astrologer and diviner, he was widely believed to be a genius and a welder of magical powers and secret knowledge. His origin, Abe no Seimei's fame comes from the success he had as an omoji in the 10th century. He was a student of Kamo no Tadayuki and Kamo no Yasunori, and succeeded Yasunori as an astrologer and diviner for the imperial court. Seimei's duties included foreseeing the gender of unborn babies, diving the location of objects, advising on matters of personal conduct, conducting exorcisms and crafting wards against dark magic and evil spirits, and analyzing and interpreting events such as celestial phenomena. He wrote numerous books on divination and fortune telling, including Senji Raketsu, containing 6,000 forecast and 36 fortune telling techniques using shikaigami, and a translation of Hoki Naiden detailing secret divination techniques. Abe no Seimei was renowned that the Abe family remained in the control of the Bureau of Onmo until it was shut down in 1869. After his death, stories about Seimei began to spread rapidly and continued to do so for hundreds of years. Eventually, the details of his life became so intertwined with countless legends that the truth was no longer distinguishable from myth. The legends. It was believed that Abe no Seimei's magical aptitude derived from a supernatural lineage. His mother was said to be a kitsune, making him half yokai. Seimei's father, Abe no Yasune, saved a white fox which was being chased by hunters. The fox transformed into a beautiful woman and said her name was Kuzonoha. Out of thanks for saving her life, Kuzonoha became Yasuno's wife and bore him a son, Seimei. By the age of 5, Abe no Seimei's yokai lineage was becoming apparent. He was able to command weak Oni and force them to do his bidding. One day he witnessed his mother in her fox form. Kuzonoha explained to Seimei that she was the white fox his father once saved. She then fled into the forest, never to return again. Kuzonoha entrusted her son to the Onmai Kamo no Tadayuki in order to ensure that he would not grow up to be evil. Abe no Seimei had many rivals. One of them was a famous priest from Harima named Chitoku Hoshi. Chitoku was a skilled sorcerer and wanted to test Seimei to see if he was truly as great as people said he was. Chitoku disguised himself as a traveler and visited Seimei's house and asked Seimei to teach him magic. Seimei saw through the disguise instantly. Even more, he saw that the two servants Chitoku had brought with him were shikigami, summoned servant spirits in disguise. Seimei decided to have a little bit of fun with Chitoku. He agreed to train him, but then it was not a good day, and that he should come back tomorrow. Chitoku went back to his home. while unbeknownst to him, Seimei unsummoned both of the Shigami. The next day, Chitoku realized that his servants were gone, and he approached Seimei to ask him to return his Shikigami. Seimei laughed at him, angrily, scolding him for trying to trick him. Any other person, he said, would not be so kind to return the Shikigami that were employed against him. Chitoku realized that he was in way over his head. Not only could Seimei see through his disguise, but he was able to manipulate all of his spells as well. He bowed low, begged for forgiveness, and offered to become Seimei's servant. Abeno Seimei's chief rival was a sorcerer from Harama named Ashiya Doman. Doman was much older than Seimei, and believed that there was no one in the land who was better on Onmurji than he was. Upon hearing of Seimei's genius, he challenged him to a magical duel. On the day of the competition, many officials came to watch. The two sorcerers met in the Imperial Gardens for the contest. First, Doman picked up a handful of sand, concentrated over it for a moment, and threw it into the air. The particles of sand turned into countless swallows, which began to flit around the garden. Seimei waved his folding fan one time, and all of the swallows turned back into grits of sand. Next, Seimei recited a spell. A dragon appeared in the sky above. Rain began to fall all around them. Doman recited his spell. However, as hard as he tried, he could not cause the dragon to vanish. Instead, the rain grew fiercer and fiercer, filling the garden with water up to Doman's waist. Finally, Seimei cast his spell again. The rain stopped, and the dragon vanished. The third and final contest was a Divination challenge. The contestants had to guess the contents of a wooden box. Domain, indignant, had lost all the previous rounds, challenged Seimei. Whoever loses this round will become the other's servant. Doman confidently declared that there was 15 oranges inside of the box. Seimei contradicted him, saying that there were 15 rats in the box. The emperor and his attendants who prepared the test shook their heads, for they had put 15 oranges in the box. They announced that Seimei had lost. 15 rats leaped out. Not only had Seimei divined the contents of the box, he had transformed the oranges into rats, tricking Doman and the entire court. Victory went to Seimei. Ashiya Doman continued to hold a grudge against Abeno Seimei and continued to plot against him. He succeeded Seimei's wife, convinced her to tell her Seimei's magical spirits and secrets. She showed him the stone box in which Seimei kept Yokai Naiden, his book of spells. Yokai Naiden was a book of secrets which had passed down since time immemorial from India to Tang, China. It became into the possession of the Japanese envoy Kibi no Makibi. When Kibi no Makibi returned to Japan from Tang, he presented the secret book to the relatives of his friend Abeno Nakamura, who remained in China. From there, it was passed down and eventually inherited by Abeno Seimei. One night, when Seimei returned home, Domain boasted that he had acquired Seimei's secret magic book. Seimei scolded him, saying that was impossible. So impossible, in fact, that if Domain did have the book, he could cut Seimei's throat. Domain triumphantly presented the book, and Seimei, realizing that he had been betrayed by his wife, offered his throat to Doman. Doman gladly cut it open. Seimei died. When Seimei was murdered, Saint Hokudo, the Chinese wizard who had given Hokonaiden to Kibi no Makibi, sensed the loss of a great sorcerer. He traveled across the sea to Japan, collected Seimei's bones and restored Abe no Seimei to life. The pair of them set out to get revenge on Doman and Seimei's ex-wife, who was now married to Doman. Saint Hokodo paid a visit to Seimei's home, where Doman and his wife were now living. He asked if Abe no Seimei was home, to which Doman replied that unfortunately Abe no Seimei had been murdered some time ago. Saint Hokudo said that was impossible, for he had just seen Seimei earlier that day. Doman laughed at him, saying that was impossible. So impossible, in fact, that if Seimei was actually alive, he could cut Doman's throat. Saint Hokudo called out to Abe no Seimei, who presented himself. He then promptly cut open the throats of Ashiya Doman and his wife. Today, Abe no Seimei is worshipped as a god at many shrines throughout Japan. His main shrine is located in Kyoto and sits on the side of his former house.